Welcome et bienvenue to the launch of the Sango project by the Central African Republic. My name is Alexei Jordanov and I have the honor of being your host today. The Central African Republic is in the heart of the African continent, but it's also in the heart of a transformational process which is set to give opportunities to not only citizens and governments, but to the rest of the world. An environment where the financial system is changing, there is a need to be open, freely accessible to everyone. And this is why the Central African Republic adopted Bitcoin in 2022, followed suit after the Sango project. And this is why we are here today. We invited experts from all over the world to come here and tell you more about what it means for you and me to be part of this journey. So, as a first speaker, let me introduce the President of the Central African Republic, Professor Faustin Archange Touadéra. Bienvenue, Monsieur le Président. Merci.
Je viens d'un beau pays, la République centrafricaine, qui émerge laborieusement, mais de manière déterminée, d'une longue et sanglante succession de crises, dont la plus atroce a été celle de 2012. Durant toute ma vie professionnelle et politique, j'ai toujours voulu laisser quelque chose de précieux en héritage aux générations futures. Ce rêve m'a poussé à devenir, et naturellement par vocation, un enseignant, afin d'éduquer la jeune génération. Dès le début de ma carrière en enseignant, le même idéal m'a poussé à me perfectionner, à devenir meilleur, afin de pouvoir changer des destinées. J'ai changé d'abord mon propre destin lorsque j'avais décidé de me dédier à l'étude des mathématiques et de poursuivre une carrière universitaire. Ma source d'inspiration était la parole du feu président Nelson Mandela, que je cite avec beaucoup de respect. L'éducation est le grand moteur du développement personnel. Grâce à l'éducation, une fille de paysan peut devenir médecin. Un fils de mineur peut devenir patron de mine. Un enfant d'ouvrier agricole peut devenir président d'une grande nation. Fin de citation. Ma vision, traduite en programme de société du gouvernement, est de bâtir un Centrafrique nouveau, fort, uni, prospère, privilégiant le dialogue, la justice, l'esprit de réconciliation nationale et ouvert au monde. Pour cela, j'ai fait de l'éducation nationale l'un des axes prioritaires de mon action, car je demeure convaincu que l'avenir de la République centrafricaine est entre les mains de sa jeunesse. Ma vision est de former cette jeunesse pour qu'elle s'approprie les nouvelles technologies et aussi la crypto-monnaie et bien d'autres moyens pour le développement de la République centrafricaine. J'ai eu du mal à me détacher du monde universitaire, en partie parce que j'enseigne encore, mais l'envie de changer des destinées m'a poussé vers la politique, où j'ai compris que mon rêve avait plus de chances de se concrétiser. Pour réaliser mon rêve, il fallait que j'avance, mais sur une nouvelle voie. Ma vision en tant que président de la République centrafricaine est intimement liée à l'héritage que je veux laisser aux générations futures. Chaque jour de mon existence est une nouvelle quête, un nouveau défi, une partie de la vision que j'ai de notre société, telle qu'elle sera dans quelques années, une projection dans laquelle les enfants d'aujourd'hui seront les citoyens de demain, les bâtisseurs d'un pays prospère. Pour le second mandat, je me suis engagé à faire de la République centrafricaine un pays uni, un pays pacifié, un pays qui bénéficie du développement. Maintenant que nous avons atteint la stabilité et la paix, nous deviendrons non seulement une nation prospère, mais aussi un point de repère sur la carte du monde. Et j'y crois fermement. Ensemble, nous tous qui désirons le bien de notre pays, voulons que le monde entier nous considère comme des visionnaires capables de serrer nos rangs et d'avoir ensemble les plus grands idéaux. Je lance un appel à tous ceux qui croient en la nécessité de saisir les opportunités, à l'avenir et à la beauté de leurs rêves, de se tenir à mes côtés. Pour un mathématicien, à moins que nous ne parlions de la liste des problèmes du prix du millénaire, il existe des solutions à tous les problèmes. Et je crois avoir trouvé la solution qui changera non seulement la rive centrafricaine, mais aussi de nombreux autres pays qui aspirent aux mêmes rêves. Cette solution, c'est le Bitcoin et la crypto-monnaie. Les problèmes d'infrastructure sont probablement la plus grande épreuve que doivent affronter les pays africains. Parmi les principales causes, on pourrait citer des problèmes historiques liés au colonialisme, les guerres civiles, les territoires énormes et souvent difficiles d'accès, le manque des moyens financiers, un niveau d'éducation insuffisant des populations. Vous conviendrez que lorsque les éléments qui constituent la base matérielle et technique d'une société sont absents ou ne fonctionnent pas, il est évident que toutes les autres composantes de la vie normale sont perturbées. Dans la même catégorie des problèmes auxquels se confrontent les pays africains, nous pouvons également placer les services financiers presque inaccessibles à de nombreuses personnes sur notre continent, le deuxième du globe en ordre de grandeur et compte le plus grand nombre de pays, 54. Mais comment se rendre dans une banque, ouvrir un compte ou effectuer des transactions si on ne dispose pas d'un guichet, d'une agence bancaire ou de personnel qualifié pour effectuer les opérations financières? Des études indiquent qu'environ 57% de la population africaine n'est pas bancarisée, si l'on s'en réfère à la conférence économique africaine de 2021. La solution a été plus facile que prévu. Pourquoi pas un téléphone? Oui, cet appareil mobile qui est arrivé dans le coin le plus éloigné de la jungle ou sur les plus hautes montagnes. L'alternative à la banque traditionnelle est le smartphone, tout comme l'alternative à l'argent liquide et à la bureaucratie financière sont les crypto-monnaies. Et savez-vous que plus de la moitié des opérateurs mobiles du monde sont situés en Afrique subsaharienne? De manière presque incroyable, le sous-développement des infrastructures a fait de l'Afrique un vecteur parfait pour les crypto-monnaies. Cette monnaie numérique qui ne nécessite qu'un smartphone pour pouvoir accéder au réseau blockchain. Cette technologie est le vecteur qui permettra à l'Afrique de progresser vers une économie numérique unique. Quant aux citoyens, il sera gagnant à tous les niveaux. Il vivra dans un pays en plein essor économique, ce qui signifie création d'emplois, exploitation de ressources naturelles et prospérité. Plus encore, il va bénéficier des avantages propres au monde, des transactions financières virtuelles qui, contrairement aux transactions bancaires classiques, ont en leur faveur la rapidité d'accès, la vitesse d'exécution, le manque de bureaucratie, de frais et des commissions bancaires coûteuses. Pour l'Afrique, il existe déjà une vision, une crypto-monnaie commune et un marché intégré des capitaux qui pourrait stimuler le commerce et soutenir la croissance. La technologie va donner une identité au continent en réduisant les coûts. La vision est parfaite et nous n'avons plus de temps d'attendre qu'elle s'inscrive dans la réalité. Nous avons donc pris notre destin en main. Pour nous, l'économie formelle n'est plus une option. Une bureaucratie impénétrable nous maintient enfermés dans des systèmes qui ne nous donnent pas la possibilité d'être performants. Notre solution, c'est de repenser notre philosophie économique. C'est ce que nous avons fait et la route qui s'ouvre devant nous fait entrevoir un grand succès pour le peuple centrafricain, pour les générations futures, pour l'avènement d'un avenir prospère et sûr. Je voudrais vous parler un peu du modèle de la République centrafricaine. Je dois rappeler que la République centrafricaine est un vaste territoire de 623 000 km², peuplé d'environ 5 millions d'habitants, dont plus de 70% de jeunes. C'est une terre bénie par sa beauté naturelle extraordinaire et ses innombrables ressources naturelles, diverses et variées, dont regorge son sous-sol et son sol non encore exploités. Nos priorités nationales ont toujours été de créer un État équilibré, un gouvernement stable, une économie en croissance et corrélativement d'assurer la prospérité de nos concitoyens. Pour atteindre ces objectifs, la seule manière entrevue consiste à trouver des solutions innovantes pour pouvoir financer les secteurs critiques de l'économie. En République centrafricaine, si vous voulez ouvrir un compte bancaire, vous devez vous rendre à la banque. Vous devez marcher longtemps, parfois très longtemps. Vous devez vous rendre à un guichet. Vous devez affronter des fonctionnaires. Imaginez qu'avec ce que nous proposons, tout peut se faire à distance, sans avoir à se déplacer. Les crypto-monnaies, fonctionnant entièrement en se basant sur la blockchain, tous les frais de transaction sont automatiquement exclus, ce qui aidera les gens à augmenter leur rendement et à investir sans frais supplémentaires. La crypto-monnaie permet aux personnes les plus pauvres de réaliser des investissements sur lesquels elles ont un contrôle. En empêchant toute interférence extérieure dans les investissements, la crypto-monnaie crée des conditions de concurrence équitable pour les riches et les pauvres. Vous vous interrogez certainement sur le point de savoir si un pays où la stabilité financière est fragile, la crypto-monnaie est-elle une solution viable? La réponse est oui. Et pourquoi? Parce qu'elle possède la capacité de mettre fin à la corruption, d'empêcher la discrimination et de prévenir l'inflation. N'est-ce pas là le moyen le plus efficace de mettre fin à la pauvreté dans le monde? N'est-ce pas là la meilleure façon de faire bouger les choses dans notre économie? N'est-ce pas là ainsi que nous l'avons créé, les prémices d'une vie meilleure pour nos concitoyens? Comme vous le savez certainement, la République centrafricaine est le premier pays d'Afrique à adopter le Bitcoin comme monnaie de référence paiement et le premier au monde à adopter à l'unanimité le projet de loi régissant la crypto-monnaie. Cette nouvelle page de l'histoire de notre nation représente un pas ferme sur la voie qui ouvre d'incroyables opportunités pour la République centrafricaine. Blockchain va dépasser les normes conventionnelles et offrir la possibilité de prospérer économiquement. Il s'agit d'une vision orientée vers l'avenir et le progrès. Notre nation doit pouvoir suivre son destin et se connecter le plus rapidement possible au monde le plus dynamique, le plus moderne, le plus populaire actuellement, le monde des crypto-monnaies. Car nous pensons avant tout à la manière dont il changera la vie de nos concitoyens et à la façon dont nous réussirons à créer une économie stable et propre et prospère. Il convient de faire ce qui est nécessaire pour le bien de tous, en gardant à l'esprit les générations futures à qui nous devons laisser un héritage significatif. Sango Coin sera la monnaie de la nouvelle génération pour la République centrafricaine. Sango signifie que nous parlons enfin le langage de l'argent. La République centrafricaine, ainsi que je viens de le rappeler, est assise sur une montagne de ressources, une richesse inestimable, l'or, diamants, métaux rares, des trésors inexploités par manque d'infrastructures. Le Sango Coin sera l'accès direct à nos ressources pour le monde entier. Sango Coin sera ce dont nous avons besoin pour mettre en place les mécanismes permettant la création des revenus, le bon fonctionnement du circuit financier afin de générer une économie durable et faire démarrer les moteurs de notre économie. Nous allons créer des infrastructures qui nous aideront à rendre l'industrie rentable. L'industrie créera des emplois, générera des revenus pour les gens qui auront une meilleure vie. Et une meilleure vie signifiera l'accès aux services sociaux de base. Avant de laisser la place aux autres présentateurs, je tiens à remercier les gens du monde entier pour leur soutien accordé à la République centrafricaine. Croyez en la République centrafricaine, croyez en moi, suivez-moi, suivez-nous dans la construction d'un nouvel avenir. Merci.
Singala Mingi, merci. Thank you, Mr. President, for those heartfelt words, this grand vision, and all the project that you shared. Thank you. Now that we've had a comprehensive vision about what the Sango project will be about, it's time to introduce our next speaker. Let me introduce Vince Meens, a Dutch man, a bold man with bold global ambitions and visions. He gathered decades of experience as an entrepreneur, as a technologist, but also as a change maker, working with government, corporation, and educational institutions in the Netherlands, empowering technology innovation communities. But he also built businesses that have millions of users. I know Vince since a couple of years, and I can tell you, he's a force for good, with genuine interest to make a positive impact on many, many different people. So today we're gonna take a leap, not from here, but straight from the metaverse. I have the pleasure and honor to introduce Vince Meens, straight from the metaverse.
Thank you, Alexei. It's with great honor and excitement that I stand before you today from within this metaverse. And what an exciting place to be. So let me take you on a journey into the future that is becoming a reality today, about innovations that I'm extremely passionate about, and are reshaping the operating system and building blocks of society on a global scale. The Central African Republic is now taking center stage to lead this revolution by example, with the launch of the Sango project and alliance, creating the first digital-first, blockchain-backed crypto economy, with financial inclusion as the main driver, that I'm going to introduce to you in just a sec. But first, as you can see, I'm now standing in this digital metaverse, connecting life with all of you in the physical world. Technology nowadays empowers us to throw off our physical forms and travel great distances in the blink of an eye, to connect and unite with people all over the world. And what's so beautiful about this metaverse is that it gives us a blank canvas to reimagine how we feel the world should be and experience it before we actually manifest it in the physical world. As futuristic as this once seemed, this is now gradually becoming an accessible reality to all of us. Nowadays, all you need is a smartphone and an internet connection. not just to observe passively or play with these new technologies, but also to participate and create great things together on an unprecedented scale, to create a better, a fairer, and a more inclusive world for all of us. Remember when you were a child, watching futuristic movies? I was personally always fascinated by the technologies I saw in these movies, and where it might take us as humanity once we actually have those. I also very vividly remember the empowering experience of browsing the internet for the very first time, when I was able to connect with communities all over the world, to share all kinds of things and feel involved, and to learn, and later on in life to also do business in that way. With all the advancements in technology like the internet and mobile apps, and things like Bitcoin and blockchain and the metaverse, all culminating together, with what we have at our disposal right now, we are reaching a point in history where you as an individual, instead of passively accepting the world you've been given, you can now explore the unprecedented power you have to actually change it in an active way. Through my own ventures all over the world, both private and public, I've seen the impact these new technologies make in setting things in motion, give access and inclusion to all in a democratizing way, and unleash the potential within all of us. The Sango project and alliance is about empowering people within the Central African Republic and digitally all over the world to co-create the blueprint and the infrastructure of how a country can embrace the future and do everything they do digital first, transparent by default, and open to all, focusing all the energy on how the world is going to be in the future instead of holding on to a world that was, with rules created by others. It's time to actually change the game, creating a digital-first, blockchain-backed crypto economy with financial inclusion as the main driver. That's the world I want to live in. Inspired by the legacy of Bitcoin, blockchain, and the metaverse, the Central African Republic is gradually implementing a long-term vision to give innovators all the right conditions to make this a reality for all of us, and make the Central African Republic the first legal crypto hub in Africa, recognized by a country's parliament, that welcomes businesses and attracts global crypto enthusiasts. This ambition actually reminds me of amazing transformations like Dubai, where in the 90s it was mostly sand. But once people dared to convert their ambitious dreams into reality, it turned into a thriving hub for the world. The next transformation, however, will not only be starting on grains of sand, but will be boosted with the power of bytes of data and pixels in the 3D worlds called the metaverse. This vision is for a thriving crypto hub in the heart of Africa, about uniting both the physical and the digital world through a global community. The roadmap to achieve this is actually based on three main pillars. The first pillar is, of course, that you need the right legal framework to actually make this happen. And while this initiative only started very recently, they already took very decisive action. On April 21st, they kicked off this movement, making Bitcoin the legal tender and reference currency for the country. And it's actually the first in Africa and the second in the world after El Salvador. And I strongly believe that a lot of other countries will follow their example. The second step will be that they create a crypto economic zone with a crypto island at the heart that I will tell you about a bit later. This crypto economic zone will provide the right tax conditions with 0% income tax and 0% corporate tax for innovation to happen. On top of that, you will have a digital identity and ownership infrastructure that is fully recognized by all government entities, which allows us to actually innovate one step further and offer e-residency, which provides a digital residency in the country, whereby the population of the Central African Republic will be complemented with people all over the world contributing to their economy and development. The next step will be actual remote citizenship, where if you stake assets within the economy, you will be granted citizenship to the Central African Republic. The next step will actually be the online business incorporation and management for any venture you want to launch from the Central African Republic with all the favorable circumstances. Once this is in place, we will start launching crowdfunding infrastructure for infrastructure that impacts the lives of many through public and private partnerships, democratizing investment opportunities for great developments for the country. This will be powered in the background by fractional tokenization frameworks to actually make it possible to own a tiny piece of land or a fraction of it, and not only of land, but also of digital assets in the metaverse. So for example, a digital piece of land. But this is not only digital, it will be backed by the actual natural resources that are in the country. So it will be backed by actual value that is going to be unlocked in the future. The second pillar is that just like the Central African Republic is the heart of Africa, there needs to be a heart of this digital new ecosystem. And the heart of that will be the app, the Sango app. The foundation is very similar to a modern-day crypto wallet, except there will be an added layer of an interface to interface with the government in a purely digital way. On top of that, there will be an educational flow where people can learn about these new technologies and get used to the opportunities that they can create once they start adopting them and using them. On top of that, you will have an identity infrastructure, purely digital, with the strongest emphasis on protecting the privacy of every user. That will allow you to digitally sign and verify actions or documents to do any kind of legal transaction. On top of that, you will be able to have all kinds of ownership within this app. So you can have currencies in this app, so traditional currencies or digital currencies. You will have access to NFTs, so ownership of things in the metaverse. And you can have, for example, the title deed of a piece of land. Next up will be the introduction of international payments for this app. So you can either get foreign capital into the country, or you can distribute the prosperity that arises from these developments back to the global community. Followed by that will be a new kind of voting, where every citizen will get a voice to shape their own future. This will, of course, lead naturally to a decentralized autonomous organizations and all kinds of new governance structures. And finally, it will be followed up by the actual metaverse, which I will show you in a bit. So how does this work in the background? This needs to be backed by a certain technology. This whole project is actually building upon the legacy of Bitcoin, which has now proven to be an incredibly secure and decentralized network of exchanging value in the world. People see it as a digital form of gold. And actually, the funny thing about Bitcoin is that the highest penetration rate of people using Bitcoin to transact value peer-to-peer is actually in Africa. So this is the perfect place to support this project. And on top of that great solid foundation, we actually add the Sango ecosystem. And to balance this ecosystem between the idealism of the digital world, like tokens and the metaverse, and the realities of the physical world, like pieces of land or natural resources, there is a need for different kind of consensus mechanism, which requires cross-institutional cooperation and enforcement to be effective. Therefore, we believe that the best approach is actually proof of convention, by democratically elected institutions, such as the presidency, the parliament, and the ministers. The third layer, once all this digital infrastructure is in place, is of course to start manifesting in the physical world. So for the physical infrastructure, at the heart of Africa's leading crypto hub will actually be Crypto Island, surrounded by Crypto City. These places start off as a metaverse representation of a real physical existing island and a to-be-developed extension of Bangui, the Central African Republic's capital. This will be the first metaverse backed by reality. The virtual representation will be mapped one-to-one to reality. So citizens and residents can actually buy land in the metaverse, with the transaction occurring in real life as well. Participants can fully manage their dealings with the state within the metaverse, as well as explore the area and observe its developments in real life. Soon this will lead to physical world infrastructural developments for transportation, such as roads, airports, and trains, but also to renewable energy sources powering this new economy, followed by a lot of real estate development with an eco-conscious approach and circularity in mind. To fuel all these developments, actually, you need a new kind of asset to manage all these exchanges of value. So we're going to introduce a new kind of innovative product for this. It requires the innovation of a multi-dimensional asset, representing value and access both in the metaverse as well as in the real world. So to resume, the Central African Republic with its crypto hub, Sango, will create all the right conditions for a crypto-friendly, digital-first economy, backed by a massive country where the government is the biggest owner of land, ready to have foreign capital participate to both develop live and work, and tap into the wealth of natural resources in a democratizing way, with its residents and citizens to accelerate a bright future together. As a digital-first global citizen myself, this is a vision that is close to my heart. I'm proud to see that people from all over the world are coming together to support this and make it a reality. It takes brave leadership to embrace new technology like this. I strongly believe that in the coming years, a lot of other countries will follow their example. And together we can be the catalyst for massive change. And change like this doesn't happen overnight. They take commitment, hard work, and collaboration. To shape this into a thriving collaborative ecosystem, they openly invite brainpower and investors from around the world to participate in these opportunities. And besides creating new use cases in the Central African Republic for existing proven solutions, they invite you to also propose, view, and contribute to the future developments, leading to fast economic growth not only for the Central African Republic, but for the whole region. We are paving the way to a digital future of endless possibilities. Sango, let's go.
Wow, Vince. I gotta say, I'm always mind blown, but doesn't surprise me. But it's a bit awkward to speak to you like that. So why don't you take a leap and come from the virtual metaverse to the actual reality?
Thank you.
There you go.
It's good to be back.
It feels better, huh?
Yes.
Yeah. So tell me, Vince, how does it feel to just go through the matrix, hack the matrix?
It's something I could only dream of as a child, what I saw in the movies, and now it's become an accessible reality to all of us. So I'm very excited about this.
Could start reality bending service.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
All
Thanks.
right. Thank you.
Keep up the good work.
Yes.
And our next speaker is Yannick Dols. Our next speaker is lecturer and entrepreneur with experience in supply chain management and sustainability in the blockchain industry. He has a passion at the intersection of culture, history, and technology. And with that, I'd like to welcome on stage Yannick Dols, ready to time travel. Take it away, man.
Thank you, Alexei. Thank you, everybody. My name is Yannick Dols, and I love the intersection of society and technology. As you can see here, I'm flying on the first Dutch blockchain incubator that we organized a while ago. And in the meantime, lots of developments have played in this field. Besides that, I have an engineering background, and I give lectures on the blockchain topic. I've worked on projects in supply chain management and sustainability in the blockchain world. Today I want to talk to you about the human evolution of technology. Because when we look way back in the history of humankind, technology has something that empowered people around the world and made sure that we were thriving in an ever-changing world. Because when we way go back, we can see that there were human tribes all around the world, and these tribes were only 70 people big. So what it made is that these tribes were organized in a decentralized way, because everybody knew each other. Everybody knew each other's face. So there was a trustless system that was society built on. But then there was the time that agriculture came along. So when agriculture was there, we were settling down and creating the new food with the new technology that agriculture provided for us. In the meantime, also our tribes were growing and becoming bigger and bigger. And this led also to a challenge, because we needed to organize our society in a different way. And that's why, at that moment, we had to centralize. We had to create structures to make sure that everything was organized in a good way. And because of that, we have now very complex centralized systems around the world. Look to current supply chains. They are very complex. Humankind did a very good job. But there was also a downside, because when you look to how these organizations were organized, we also know they were not as efficient as their decentralized counterparts. But at that moment, we had no other solution to provide this gain for society. And now we have the luck with blockchain that we can have a trustless system all around the world created by technology for society. And look some years back. If we look there, then we saw in the early 2000s, and maybe a little bit before, that the internet was coming along. It was a technology that some would say was going to change the world, while others were still thinking that this was something that will go away. And if we look now about how internet is wired into our society, it's something that cannot go away anymore. Our businesses, how we communicate with others, everything is built on top of this technology. So as we can also see in this video that I want to show, is that the internet in 1995 was completely different perceived by most. And this is the same where blockchain is currently in.
But you know, I think about this, and what about this internet thing? Do you know anything about that?
Sure.
What the hell is that exactly?
Well, it's become a place where people are publishing information.
Right.
So everybody can have their own homepage, companies are there, the latest information. It's wild what's going on. You can send electronic mail to people. It is the big new thing.
Yeah, but you know, it's easy to criticize something you don't fully understand, which is my position here.
Go ahead.
But I can remember a couple of months ago, there was like a big breakthrough announcement that on the internet or on some computer deal, they were going to broadcast a baseball game. You could listen to a baseball game on your computer. And I just thought to myself, does radio ring a bell? You know what I mean?
There's a difference.
There is a difference.
It's not a huge difference.
What is the difference?
But you can listen to the baseball game whenever you want.
Right.
Too.
Oh, I see. So it's stored in one of your memory deals,
Exactly.
and then you can come
That's
back
the
a year
RAM
later.
thing you talked about earlier.
Yeah. Do tape recorders ring a bell? Yeah, I just don't know. What can you, just knowing me the little you know me now, what am I missing here? What do I need?
Well, if you want to learn about the latest cigars or auto racing statistics.
Well, you know, I've got that covered. I subscribe to 2 British magazines devoted entirely to motorsports, and I call the Quaker State Speed Line about 2 times a half hour. So now, would the computer give me more than I'm getting that way?
Oh, you can find other people who have the same unusual interests you do,
So as we can see, is in the early stage of the internet, a lot of criticism was there. And people thought that it was maybe a technology that would go away. But if we look back to how internet impacted our lives, our businesses, and how the way we communicate with people all around the world, we know it is here to stay. And if you compare also the internet to the human body, it's like the blood vessels and the nerve system that completely connects our whole body. And now, on top of that current infrastructure, we get an extension, a collective brain, a collective logic that can create trust all around the world. Because if you look to the technologies through humankind about how we exchanged information with one another, then it was basically that every time there was an innovation, even if it was the printing press, the radio, the TV, the internet, every time the complete infrastructure was replaced. But now we get an extension, a collective brain, a collective logic, which can bring trust all around the world. So basically, we're stepping into a new era, and that's Web 3. So not only we are connected all around the world, we can connect organizations, we can create the infrastructure where we exchange information in a secure and immutable way, where we can have transparency and trust for everybody, for organizations and people around the world. Because if we're then going to look to the building blocks of society to create a new fabric with basically these new parts that are provided to us, a digital identity is very important. Currently, we have much of our identity is created by a passport that is given to a nation state. But with blockchain, we can look to self-sovereign identity solutions in which people are enabled, where people get the power back, that they have control, the data sovereignty, the control over their own data, in which they can choose with who they share that data, with who they want to interact, and with who they trust. And basically, on top of that, if we have then that identity, we can look to the ownership of assets. We can look to the ownership of assets like fungible assets, that can be gold, that can be Bitcoin, but also commodities that are tokenized, of national resources all around the world. And on the other hand, we have NFTs, non-fungible assets. And these are also very interesting. Because when we look, for instance, for the property of a house, we don't have to go to a notary anymore, because basically a smart contract and an NFT can be used to exchange the ownership from one person to the other. But there are much more other functions that NFTs can provide to humanity. Look now, for instance, how an artist can interact with his fans. Because currently, he has to go to the music label to basically record his album. And the label has more power since he is the one paying and the one distributing and also making the most of the royalties of the music that the artist makes. But what does the artist truly want? For who is he making that music? He is making that music for his fans. So what if he could give out NFTs that he sells directly to his fans, and the fans that want to support him can have influence on the album, but on top of that, they can be the first to be able to attend the new concerts of that album. And on top of that, they can also get some part of the royalties. But the same goes, for instance, with a car. Selling a car to somebody else now needs to go to certain institutes. But what if this function can be taken over by technology? And then, if we have ownership of assets, we have an identity, we want to create communities. And how do these communities, organizations, or even nations, how does the governance go around that? So how do we make decisions? How do we enable people to be part of the decision-making process? So we have a more democratic way about decisions that are made by movements. And if we combine this digital identity with the ownership of assets, and then have organizations with governance in a decentralized way, we get to decentralized autonomous organizations, DAOs. Look to, for instance, government. If they want to have more citizen participation, you need to enable the citizen to be part of that decision-making program. If we look, for instance, that somebody that lives in a certain city or even in a certain neighborhood has much better idea about what is needed to guide this neighborhood. So let him be part of that decision-making, empower him. Besides that, we have a lot of communities with the same interests, with the same ideas or ideologies. And these people also need a way that they can come together and be part of a community worldwide, so that we can have a decision-making process in a democratic way, enabled by technology. And this is what DAOs can provide, to basically empower people around the world in different types of communities, organizations, or even a country. And then if we look to the financial institutions that we currently have, we have a very centralized system where banks have basically licensed to provide financial products. And the license is something you not easily get, and that is for a reason. On top of that, you have is that the financial products they create are big, not optimized, and are not, for everybody, easy to understand. So now with blockchain, we have DeFi, a decentralized financial system. And what it basically creates is to look to the financial system and to take out all the small financial processes and replace them with technology, to replace them with a smart contract in which you can interact with, where you and everybody is able to interact with this smart contract. And basically, every small financial process we can see like a Lego block. So with all these different Lego blocks of different financial processes, we can create our own financial products all together. And everybody can interact with it. So everybody has access to the same financial means. And then, if we continue, the next step in Web 3, of course, will be the metaverse. It will be a virtual world where we can interact with each other all around the world, where basically, if I want to meet up with my community, which is governed by a DAO, where I have my own assets, where I can interact with my digital identity, I can enter with that identity into the metaverse and interact with communities and people. But also I can have access to products, services all around the world. I can have the ownership of parts of the metaverse. I can come together, like in an office, and sign on the blockchain a financial product with an investment bank, for instance. But also, I want to explore, for instance, the CentraleRépublique, and I enter that world to see the digital twin, the digital version of the country, in a very easy way from all around the world. On top of that, there are some other interesting things within the blockchain world. Because when we look to these new building blocks that we have as an operating system for society, we can also look about how we want to incentivize certain behavior that we want to see in the world. For instance, currently we are gathering so much data. More people are walking around with a Fitbit and collecting health data. It could be, for instance, that if you choose to, by yourself, that if you want to provide that health data to, for instance, a health insurance company about your steps that you take every day, that if I, for instance, take 6,000 steps a day, that I can then get a reduction on the cost of my health insurance. So we can look to other ways of paying for certain services, for certain products. But on the other hand, we can also look with these incentives to other sides. For instance, to dynamic prices. If we look, for instance, to gasoline. Gasoline has a certain fixed price per liter. But what if we want to lead a more sustainable future? So, if I drive very eco-friendly, then maybe I will pay less for a liter of gasoline than if I'm driving and using that gasoline in a less efficient way. So with smart contract, we can program that, for instance, we are not paying per liter for a scarce resource, but we pay for use. And think about all the possibilities of other ways of creating incentives that we as humanity want to see all around the world. But also look to supply chains. They are very complex. There is a lot of stakeholders involved. There is a lot of quality control about tests, about documents, about import, export, invoices, and so on that are being sent. And currently, all these companies operate within a data silo. What if we can create a system where we can see in a much more transparent way about how a product gets created? Then, every time when we know the real story behind the product, we, when we buy it, can choose if that is what we want to see in the world. And then we give an option to everybody around the world to vote with every right, every buy, what we want to see in the world. And also look about other parts of business. When we look, businesses are much more moving forward to not focus only on financial profits, but also think about the sustainability and about the world that we live. So what if we have a more accountability, for instance, for carbon production, or other ways that we can create a system where sustainability is at its core. And every time when we choose about the future of our society. But also look about how energy is provided. In a lot of ways, we have like a one price for the energy. We get it from the central net. And this is everything but efficient. So with blockchain, we can create smart grids. So we can even start it peer-to-peer, where I have a solar panel, my neighbor has a turbine, and we all generate sustainable energy. And this is being tokenized and being sold on an open market via the blockchain. Combine that with smart batteries, we get a fluctuating price, but a much more optimal, organized way of how we use the resources that we generate. So a real paradigm shift is happening, because these are only just some examples, but blockchain can basically disrupt and create a paradigm shift around the world, can create a new operating system where we as humanity can decide about how this operating system should look like. Because besides blockchain, we have a lot of other technologies that are currently being developed. And with blockchain and all the others, we can enable all the people around the world to be part of the movement, and everybody should be able to have a say about how the new fabric of society should look like. I want to thank you all, and I want to let you all to think about what opportunities are we now tapping into, how we can enable with people all around the world, and especially now at the heart of Africa with the CentraleRépublique. How do we empower everybody? How do we want to see the future of the whole world? It starts small, but it becomes big, and in the end, the whole world should be enabled. Thank you.
Amazing, Yannick. Thank you for this very educative overview. I hope that this helps putting things into perspective.
Thank you.
Now that we have had a great overview about the evolution of technology, we can move on to the next topic. And as the next speaker, I have the honor of inviting on the stage Mr. Hervé Ndouba, Minister of Finance of the Central African Republic. Mr. Ndouba has gathered many years of experience as a man in the private sector, which he now puts to good use within the public sector to create a better synergy within the economy. We'll get to know in his talk about important details of the financial perspectives of the Sango project. Please welcome on stage Mr. Ndouba. Barala.
Barala, Alexei.
Pleasure.
Pleasure.
Take it away.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to be here on stage. I think it's not really necessary to talk about the opportunities in Africa. Africa, which is the next frontier, the fourth industrial revolution, the agriculture capacity to feed the world, the demographic dividends, etc., etc. You can get all this information which confirm that Africa is the future on internet. So I will immediately jump into the heart of the subject to give you an outlook of the country on the Sango initiative on the Ministry of Finance perspective. Our government is facing so many issues to offer the basic services to the population, we have a lack of high-quality infrastructure, energy, clean water, roads, schools, hospitals, etc. The situation puts the country in a continuous cycle of weakness and fragility, which impacts negatively the fiscal space of the country. On the financial perspective, the question is, how are we going to finance the infrastructures in our country while needs are urgent and estimated at several billion US dollars? How are we going to strengthen our fiscal capacity and ensure the growth? The governments in sub-Saharan African countries are pushing very hard to give the necessary space to the private sector for them to play the role and invest strongly in the infrastructure. But this solution faces the limit of our traditional financial system. The Central African Republic solution, Sango, which is our cryptocurrency, based on the blockchain with Bitcoin as reference, will drive the growth of our country on one hand and will unlock the development of sub-Saharan African countries on another hand. If it's true that the crypto community will reach 1 billion people, users, by end 2022, which represent between 12 and 14% of the world population, let's show to the rest of the world how powerful it is and how it can be a game changer for the poor and fragile countries which have a lot of natural resources. I think you'll have another view on this by my other colleagues. Join us and let's take advantage of this unique opportunity to build a better future of endless possibilities. Thank you.
Did I say correctly?
Singila Mingi.
Singila Mingi. Lost in
Alex,
translation.
Thank
here.
you.
Thank you, Mr. Ndova.
Thank you very much.
I hope that all this comes to fruition.
It was great. Thank you. Bye-bye.
And now is the time to present our next speaker. And now, as our next speaker, we have the pleasure to invite on stage Rufin Benan Beltougou. He's the Minister of Natural Resources and Mining, who will give us an overview about the investment opportunities that we can have in the Central African Republic. Please welcome on stage Mr. Beltougou. Minister, Barala.
Barala Mingi.
The stage is
Bonjour.
yours.
Mesdames et messieurs, bonjour. J'aimerais vous parler du potentiel minier centrafricain. Potentiel minier qui offre des opportunités d'investissement inouïes pour tout investisseur. La République centrafricaine est un pays situé au cœur de l'Afrique. Elle couvre une superficie de 623 000 km². Disposant d'un vaste ensemble géologique qui couvre pratiquement 32 substances minérales, contenant 470 indices de minerais, la RCA est un pays à très forte potentialité minière. Nous trouvons l'or, le diamant et plusieurs autres minerais qui sont malheureusement inexploités, faute de ressources. Le projet Sango facilitera la tokenisation des ressources de la République centrafricaine pour les investisseurs du monde entier. Certaines de ces ressources ont été évaluées, éprouvées, tandis que d'autres n'ont pas été évaluées. Elles méritent une attention particulière en termes d'opportunités d'investissement. Les plus importants, je voudrais les citer, l'or, le fer, le diamant, le calcaire, le lithium, le cobalt et le rhodium. L'or, principal minerai ayant été évalué dans le cadre de plusieurs études, s'étend sur un gîte primaire appelé roche verte et également sur un gîte alluvionnaire. L'ensemble de ces gisements a fait l'objet d'études qui ont mis en valeur plus de 300 tonnes sur les 2 gîtes et de 2000 tonnes évaluées pratiquement à 60 milliards de dollars. Le diamant, principale ressource exploitée par les artisans miniers, s'établit à plus de 57 millions de carats, dont 29 à l'ouest du pays, 29 millions à l'ouest du pays et 27 millions à l'est, pour une valeur de 285 milliards de dollars. Le fer est également reparti sur 2 importants sites, celui de Topa et celui de Bogoin. Les 2 sites ont fait également l'objet d'études qui ont évalué à plus de 2,2 milliards de tonnes prouvées et 150 milliards de tonnes estimées. Le calcaire également est reparti sur 2 sites, à Bobassa et le site de Fatima qui est à Bangui. Celui de Bobassa, après étude, a mis en exergue plus de 262 millions de tonnes et celui de Fatima, 680 millions de tonnes. Le graphite a fait l'objet également d'une exploration sommaire qui a mis en exergue plus de 300 tonnes et une estimation a également été faite pour plus de 2000 tonnes de réserves. Le tout peut être évalué à 600 millions de dollars. L'uranium, substance stratégique, a fait l'objet d'importantes études qui ont mis en valeur plus de 120 000 tonnes, évaluées à 15,4 milliards de dollars. Le cuivre, le coltan, appelé colombo-tantalite, et le cobalt ont également été explorés dans des études sommaires qui ont mis également en évidence des réserves économiquement exploitables. Le potentiel pétrolier centrafricain se répartit entre le nord, est et le sud du pays, où 3 grands blocs pétroliers ont fait l'objet d'études importantes par des firmes internationales. Parmi ces zones, seuls 63 km², 63 000 km² ont été étudiés, valorisés. Le reste du territoire vierge, qui n'a pas fait l'objet d'études approfondies, nécessite la mobilisation d'importantes ressources pour pouvoir développer le pays. Le projet Sango-Coin, le projet Sango permettra à la République centrafricaine de pouvoir mobiliser les ressources, mobiliser les investisseurs importants que vous êtes pour le développement de ce pays. C'est une opportunité unique et inouïe qui s'offre au pays pour son développement. Je vous remercie.
Merci. Thank you.
Singila Mingi, merci.
Now that we have had a great overview about investment opportunities of the Central African Republic, it's time to move on to the next topic. And now the next speaker that I will welcome on stage is Pascal Bida Kouyangbale. He's the Minister of Strategic Investment and Infrastructure Development, and he will tell us more about the crypto island. Balara.
Hello, how are you?
Good.
Okay.
The stage is yours.
Okay, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very glad to be here tonight to introduce you the Crypto Island project. It's going to be a project to create a crypto-friendly environment, a home for crypto enthusiasts, and not only. In this island, we are going to promote the tokenization and the NFTization of the economy in the world. So for that, we are going to doing all these things, not only for CAR, Central African Republic, not only for Africa, but for the world. This revolution is going to take place, in fact, in the crypto island, in the heart of Africa, in the middle of the river of Ubangi, in the equatorial area. A green paradise to attract crypto business, a safe and full tax-free environment. So that means for all crypto transactions going to benefit to the system of tax-free, full tax-free in Central African Republic on the crypto island. For this to happen, we are working very hard on a solid legal framework, which is going to be a pillar of security for building the crypto ecosystem. A crypto hub based on the crypto island is going to help developing all crypto activities. This crypto island is going to be a green city for the development of these different crypto activities with a futurist infrastructure, futurist and green buildings, futurist and green offices, apartments, hospitals, schools, hotel, golf clubs, sport area, and other amenities. This crypto island is going to be the place to be for dreamers who's ready to realize their dream. The place to be to invent and shape the future. Please come and enjoy the crypto revolution in your crypto city. Thank you very much. Singila.
Singila Mingi, thank you.
Thank
we wish you a lot of success with the project.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
So now that we had an overview about the details about the crypto island, we can move on to the next topic. As the next speaker, we have the honor to welcome on stage Justin Gourna-Jacot. He is the Minister of Digital Economy and Telecommunications, and he will share with us the whole process of digitalization within Central African Republic. Balara, Minister, pleasure to meet you. The stage is yours.
Okay. Dans le plan de relèvement et de consolidation de la paix en République centrafricaine, le gouvernement prévoit d'atteindre une croissance forte et inclusive au profit du développement. Cet objectif ne saurait être atteint sans la mise en place d'un environnement favorable au développement du secteur financier, répondant tant aux besoins de la profession de ce secteur qu'à l'ensemble des acteurs économiques. Conformément à la vision politique du président de la République, chef de l'État, le professeur Faustin Arcand Touadéra, qui, dans sa profession de foi, voudrait faire du secteur de l'économie numérique l'un des piliers du développement de la République centrafricaine. C'est dans cette optique que le ministère des Finances et du Budget et le ministère de l'économie numérique, des Postes et Télécommunications ont fait voter et promulguer la loi sur les taxations électroniques le 11 janvier 2022 et la loi sur la crypto-monnaie le 22 avril 2022. À ce jour, les travaux sur les textes d'application sont suffisamment avancés afin de réglementer et de faciliter l'installation des acteurs de l'écosystème dans un environnement favorable à leurs activités. Le plan national de Centrafrique Digital 2025 traduit la volonté nationale de franchir un premier palier afin de hisser progressivement au niveau des États modernes et prospères. Le projet de mise en œuvre de ce plan est d'une importance vitale pour la République centrafricaine. En effet, l'objectif poursuivi est de contribuer à l'attractivité de notre territoire, de la relance de notre économie via les initiatives et l'engagement continu, du ministère chargé de l'économie numérique, des postes et télécommunications depuis sa conception à la mise en œuvre des différents projets. À travers cet exposé, je voudrais présenter les multiples opportunités qu'offre notre pays, la République centrafricaine, aux investisseurs que vous êtes, afin de venir investir chez nous, dans un climat économique favorable, reposant sur un partenariat gagnant-gagnant. À cet effet, le gouvernement, à travers le département que je dirige, prendra toutes les dispositions nécessaires afin de faciliter votre intégration dans le circuit économique de notre pays. Pour cela, quelques actions ont été déjà menées allant dans le sens de faciliter l'intégration en plus du cadre réglementaire déjà établi. Bientôt s'en suivra l'opérationnalisation de l'interconnexion backbone Internet basée sur la fibre optique. Ce serait la première étape pour obtenir une couverture Internet 5G nationale à haut débit et facilitée par cette interconnexion dorsale d'Internet. Extension de la couverture via les opérateurs de réseau centralisés ou décentralisés. La transformation digitale de l'administration tend à devenir une réalité en République centrafricaine. Parfois, il y a un avantage de commencer par le bas. Par cela, vous permet de construire sur la base des dernières technologies et principes. Permettre l'accès aux systèmes financiers sur mobile est déjà une tendance en Afrique et il y a encore de la place pour se développer. En outre, le secteur de télécommunications présente également des opportunités qui peuvent intéresser les investisseurs car le pays dispose d'un taux de pénétration de la téléphonie mobile encore très faible, estimé à ce jour à environ 36% par rapport à un taux moyen de 82% sur le continent. Le secteur postal en pleine mutation a lui aussi subi quelques réformes à travers la création récente de la Société nationale des postes, ayant pour vision l'accélération du déploiement des activités postales et la digitalisation des services postaux sur toute l'étendue du territoire national. Avec 2 opérateurs, c'est aussi un secteur qui pourrait intéresser à l'avenir y investir, car le pays dispose d'un vaste territoire permettant de développer un grand réseau de distribution. Un autre sujet d'intérêt serait l'identité et la prospérité numérique alimentée par la technologie blockchain et reconnue par les entités gouvernementales officielles. Notre position actuelle nous permet de tout numériser. Notre vision est que c'est le moment de le faire et nous accueillons des partenaires dans cette direction. L'identité autosouveraine permettant l'accès numérique aux services publics pour les particuliers et pour les entreprises ont la construction d'un environnement entièrement numérisé par les entreprises et la déclaration fiscale sont d'autres objectifs que nous avons sur la carte. Nous croyons que c'est l'avenir de la République centrafricaine, de l'Afrique et du monde. Distingués partenaires, le pays dispose d'énormes potentialités. C'est pourquoi nous comptons sur le développement et le maillage de ces infrastructures afin de couvrir l'ensemble du territoire national au moyen d'un dispositif de technologie comme, entre autres, la solution satellitaire compte tenu de l'immensité du territoire afin de faciliter le développement de toutes les régions du pays de manière non discriminatoire et jeter définitivement les bases du développement durable soutenu par la cohésion sociale. Nous sommes ici en droit de vous rassurer que les dispositions sont prises pour vous réserver un accueil chaleureux et faciliter votre intégration dans le circuit économique de notre pays, la République centrafricaine. Nous vous souhaitons déjà la bienvenue en Centrafrique. Merci pour votre bien aimable attention. Singila Mingi.
Singila Mingi à vous, Monsieur Gourna Jaco.
Oui.
Merci pour votre temps et pour vos explications.
Ok.
Thank you.
D'accord.
And now that we had an overview about how this digitalization process will look like in the future, we can move on to the next topic. At last, but not least, as a cherry on top of the cake, we have the honor to welcome on stage Jan Scheler. He has been active in the blockchain industry since the last 8 years and has also founded 2 blockchain ventures. He's also the board member of the Blockchain Netherlands Foundation. and also is the digital leader at the World Economic Forum. In this talk, we learn about the opportunities of Web3 for governments. Welcome, Jan.
Thank you.
Take it away.
Thanks so much. Trust has always been one of the cornerstones of society. It maintains relationships. It lets companies grow and flourish. And it's the cement of collaboration between individuals, governments, and companies. It makes that we really want to be part of something, that we really want to give our talent and put in the time and effort, and always do that little bit of extra more. But according to Confucius, without trust, we cannot stand. Society nowadays, unfortunately, is facing a huge trust inertia. Can technology overcome this huge problem? My name is Jan Schelen. In the past years, I had the pleasure of organizing over 50 TED events on a global scale, from Amsterdam to the United Nations in New York and Baghdad, Iraq. And after that, I found 2 blockchain ventures, and am, as already mentioned, head of the board of the Blockchain Netherlands Foundation and digital leader at the World Economic Forum. Now, one of the things that is grinding my gears is trust. Trust in the world. And when we look to the most respected barometer of trust, the Edelman Trust Barometer, we see that all sectors and societal actors, from media to governments, from corporates to healthcare, trust is declining, and it's declining fast. And it all has to do with this VUCA world in which we're living in, this volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguity world. Life is becoming so much more complex. It's hard to make a living, it's harder to have fun, and it's harder to understand. But this is causing massive problems worldwide in different societies. Societies that are now becoming much more polarized, populistic, and distrusted. The societal contracts that governments have with their inhabitants is becoming so much harder to fulfill by the day. And fortunately, technology is here to give the helping hand. Blockchain technology has since day one been named the trust machine, because the technology is consisting of several building blocks that have proven themselves to bring trust back in different aspects of society. Now, it all started with this peer-to-peer cash system, Bitcoin, that was found at the heydays of the financial crisis, bringing back trust in one of the most comprehensive systems in the world. A system that is fully based on trust, but lacked all of it. Now, 14 years later, what we see is that like the underlying technology, the blockchain technology, is being used by and adopted by almost all the industries all around the globe, even in the tiniest countries. But it evolved from the toy from the nerds to this new trust machine for society. The technology itself has evolved at an incredible pace. And what we see now are like these new, unforeseen possibilities. And most of them are still really new developments also being introduced on a regular basis. The following 5 key developments are, in my perspective, so extremely interesting for governments to have a look at. Let me start with crypto money. And why money? Well, because of the writer Yuval Harari is mentioning it so nicely. Money is the most universal and most efficient system of mutual trust ever devised. But, according to Henry Ford, it's better that people just don't understand this financial system. Because if they did, there will be a revolution before tomorrow morning. In my perspective, we can't explain why in such a tech-laden world there are still over 2 billion people without access to a financial infrastructure. A financial infrastructure that is, according to all the research reports by the World Bank, by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, by McKinsey, the basic foundation for developing a country. Something that so many countries are looking forward to. In my perspective, you also cannot explain why it's still so expensive to be poor, right? I mean, the people that need the money the most pay up to 20% to send money to their families. And therefore, I'm really excited about countries that are now circumventing the traditional financial system that has not been in favor for them in the past years. And then now they start using this new technology to make it their own system more inclusive. And I think a great example can be found in the Philippines, where before only 11% of the inhabitants had access to a financial infrastructure. And now, with this crypto app, this new application, finally all the inhabitants of the Philippines have access to a new financial system, and this app has become the biggest bank of the country. Governments all over the world, over 90%, are already working on central bank digital currencies. And the two that are already active in development countries are showing incredible results with regards to efficiency, safety, and most important, inclusivity. Now, the second development where I'm really excited about is self-sovereign identity, giving consumers back the control about their own identity. And not just giving back control, but also giving them an identity. Because still over 1 billion people worldwide lack a formal, official identity, preventing them from things like voting, getting a loan, or getting official work. Besides that, we see on a global scale the massive identity frauds taking place. We see the big tech companies misusing the identities right now. And therefore, it's really great to see in, for example, development countries now using self-sovereign identity, for example, by the United Nations, helping over like hundreds of thousands of refugees with an own digital identity. Great example here, refugees from Syria, their health data is being stored on the blockchain, and just with a glimpse of their eye, with an eye scan, they get the most up-to-date health record or their digital identity presented. And in supermarkets, there is no physical money anymore. Also here, they can blink with their eye, identify themselves, and pay with their digital wallet. Now, also here, we see some incredible projects also on a more global scale. Like in India, the Aadhaar project, the biggest project by far, comprising over 1 billion digital identities. And also in Africa, South Africa, where Yoma was launched. Variable digital identities, credentialing for the masses. Now, we see tons of projects enhancing lives of humans because, well, of course, the better security of this digital identity. And not just the security, also here because, according to the World Bank, it's predicted that the use of online identities could unlock the economic value equivalent of 6% of the GDP in emerging countries. Now, the third really exciting development that is taking place is tokenization. And for me, what I'm so excited about is because it's finally bringing back trust in ownership, physical and digital, but also making ownership easier, more efficient, and more inclusive because of things like fractional ownership, unlocking tons of new possibilities for things like investments and ownership. Now, these developments are already taking place for years. We see it in the traditional arts, we see it in property, we see it in stocks, lately also with digital content named NFTs, kickstarted a completely new tokenization revolution for industries like the music industry, and in my perspective, also giving the first killer app of blockchain. What emerging markets are missing, in my perspective, are participation and liquidity. And this is essential, because essential in a successful major market is more movements of assets. In other words, markets need liquidity, which is partly derived from participation. Tokenization could make this financial industry in development countries so much more accessible, cheaper, faster, and easier to run. Thereby also possibly unlocking trillions of dollars in currently illiquid assets. And of course, vastly increasing the volumes of trading in these assets. Now, my colleagues at the World Economic Forum therefore predicted that in the upcoming years, around 10% of global GDP will probably be tokenized. The fourth trend that I'm really excited about is decentralized data. And why is this so important? Let me give you an example of Haiti. We saw the devastating earthquake taking place in Haiti. And the agency that owns all the land rights, that registered all the land rights of Haiti, had them stored locally. So when this earthquake hit, indeed, the agency got flushed in the ocean, together with all the land rights. And in the end, nobody knew what land was actually registered to what person, therefore really showing the need for decentralized data. Now, why are users so extremely enthusiastic about using this blockchain technology? Is because of the nature of the technology, editing the data being stored on this blockchain impossible. Giving, therefore, trust in the data, because you know that nobody, single person, no single entity can edit the data. So when we look, for example, to land rights, well, we see now cases in, for example, Honduras, where officials, well, they used to just simply written lands in their own name, stealing it from the rightful owner. We see in India, on an even bigger scale, that 1/3 of all the civil lawsuits is about land ownership. And therefore, if you look to the research reports from, for example, the World Bank, they show that after various pilots worldwide, they are so extremely promising, not just to prevent corruption, but also provide all kinds of new revenue streams for governments, which of course can be further built their country. Now, why should you use decentralized data as well? Because there's tons of ideas why you should actually decentralize data, for example, about medicines. On a global scale, 500,000 people still die on an annual basis because of fake medicines, most of them in Africa. So what you see now with all the pharmacies, they put all the medical data, all the data about these medicines on the blockchain, so users of the medicines can verify if they have the real drug or not. And the same with food. I mean, still 500,000 people, mostly in development countries, die because of bad food. And also here we see this huge movement of food producers now putting all the data about ingredients, about the products on the blockchain so people can verify it and make sure that they don't eat the bad food. And even wider, also fake items like shoes and handbags. It's a $500 billion industry on the global scene. And it's the #1 source of income for terrorist groups like Al-Qaeda. Governments taking the lead in decentralizing all their governmental data and also public services with incredible results, giving tremendous opportunities, not just by efficiency operating the government, but also for all the inhabitants using these governmental services. And what we see in the results are that from the 3,000 services that have been put online, 99% are now available online, saving 3 million hours on an annual basis. It only takes 3 hours to set up a business in Estonia. And combined with the fact that they have this e-residency, Estonia has now more startups per person than in Silicon Valley. Another great example is the government of Dubai, where because they decentralized the data, they're now saving on an annual basis so much money that they can build another Burj Tower every year with the savings. The last trend that I'm really excited about is the metaverse. And the metaverse is already existing in my perspective because of the gaming industry. The gaming industry being as big as both the music and the movie industry combined when you look to turnover. It has over 3 billion active users on the global scale. And in my perspective, it is one of the predecessors of the metaverse. Now, in the past years, we saw, of course, this rapid speed in digital transition of our society. everything from dating to having a workout, from going to work, going to church, and everything is taking place. And if we look now to the numbers, like the amount of time we spend on a daily basis online, right now it's around 1/3 of the 24 hours on a daily basis. And in a few years' time, people expect that it's over 50%. Therefore, Bill Gates is already expecting, if you look a little bit further to the possibilities of the metaverse, that this metaverse, this virtual economy, could be as big, maybe even bigger than the current physical economy. Now, if dogs are like their owners, the metaverse is like their country. For governments, in my perspective, the opportunities are falling into 3 categories. One of them is using digital twins to remedy issues. The second is bringing a set of services to residents. And the third is to enhance the touristic destination for prospective and current tourists. Now, give some great examples. Let me start with China, where several cities already built an identical virtual twin of their city for example, police organizations that can look at where, for example, accidents are happening or potential threats. But if we look even to American cities, we see that they will achieve a 280 billion cost saving by using these digital twins to increase things like efficiency in energy, transportation, and infrastructure. Now we see all kinds of other initiatives where governments are now putting services like embassies, like even entire ministries in Saudi Arabia in the metaverse. Because the possibilities are endless for all the administrative services regarding the economy. From culture and tourism, education, civil complaints, you name it. Seoul even hopes to host a metaverse-based festival, attracting virtual tourists worldwide, and let residents meet virtually with avatars of, yes, real public officials. Now, what we see now is also that already tens of thousands of people are already joining a metaverse holiday, so they can check out the country before they actually go. Also, some incredible opportunities are here for countries that want to show themselves to the world and attract more tourists. Now, to close down, what we see is even when the crypto markets are not going in the upside direction, we see still massive investments taking place by companies, really respected companies like Binance, like Andreessen Horowitz, and also with the great resignation of young people leaving traditional firms like financial firms, like multinationals, to work for Web3 startups, believing they can finally make an impact. We are at the forefront of a new era where the positive change can be driven by technology. But we need thought leaders that dare to take the first step, planting the first seeds to grow, flourishing, paving the path for the developments to come. One of the things where I'm the most excited about when it comes to the Sangha project is the tokenization of assets. Finally, democratizing investments, making it, for example, possible for fractional investments, and thereby making it also easier for capital and investments in a fractional way. These developments, they usually happen gradually and then suddenly. We've seen that with so many new technologies popping up. Usually it happens really slow, and then at once it goes really fast. And usually I compare it with the first iPhone. Who could have seen that with the first iPhone, we would be on this iPhone for 4 hours in a day. We would navigate with Google Maps, listen to music on Spotify, do our banking in the banking apps. Now, with all the exciting developments, I mean, also in the Central African Republic, we're just getting started. And I'm so excited for this Sangha initiative to take place. And I really want to congratulate the country for daring to taking all these quantum leaps. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Jan, and thank you for this amazing presentation. I think you resumed it all, and it was the last puzzle of this event. Thanks for your time.
Thanks so much.
So now we are coming to an end of this launch event of the Sangha project, and I would like to thank you, the viewer, for actually being with us on this journey and learning about all these developments, all this exciting future that the Central African Republic is undergoing. If you like to have more information about what you've seen, find it on the website. And if you're really interested and you feel that you could be part of this journey, also check out the website and be part of the waiting list. I'm thanking you. I'm your host, Alexei Jordanov. Again, congratulations to the Central African Republic for this initiative, and I'll see you another time.
L'avenir de la République centrafricaine est entre la main de sa jeunesse. Et notre vision, c'est de former cette jeunesse pour qu'elle s'approprie les nouvelles technologies et aussi la crypto-monnaie et bien d'autres moyens pour le développement de la République centrafricaine.
President Touadéra came from a very humble beginning, having been born to a driver and farmer at Bangui in 1957. He attended the University of Bangui and the University of Abidjan. He went on to get 2 doctorate degrees. By the will of the people, Faustin Touadéra was elected twice as president. Now, he brings the crypto revolution in his country, building a crypto city on an island in the capital of Bangui.
This crypto city is going to be implemented on an island, the crypto island. It's going to be a free tax zone, but also a nice place to enjoy the crypto revolution. The crypto president wants to open this crypto city to the world. That's a vision.
L'approche assez du pont là qui lie tout ça là, il faut quand même aménager un port pour ceux qui vont remonter le fleuve. Aujourd'hui, on voit que la crypto-monnaie, les monnaies virtuelles apportent des ressources pour un certain nombre de pays et permettent de capter des ressources. C'est ce qui nous manque pour le développement de notre pays. Vous savez, sur l'ensemble du territoire, on a de grandes quantités d'or. Pratiquement sur l'ensemble du territoire, il y a du diamant, du fer, du cuivre, du coltan, du lithium, du cobalt et bien d'autres minerais stratégiques qui sont aujourd'hui connus et identifiés. Bitcoin, c'est l'or digital. Mais notre idée, c'est de faire la liaison entre l'or digital et les ressources et nos grands projets de développement. Ça, c'est une somme. Et le produit par un scalaire. Bon, alors donc lambda FDX qui va être donc lambda FDX.
Je compte vraiment faire la nutrition parce que ça a depuis toujours été mon ambition. Je veux vraiment être dans ce domaine-là afin d'aider la population.
J'aime bien donner de l'eau potable à la population.
J'aimerais diriger une université scientifique pour le meilleur développement de notre pays.
Je continue à dispenser mes enseignements parce que je veux toujours former des jeunes pour la République centrafricaine. Et quand je suis en face de mes étudiants, j'apprends beaucoup aussi. À travers eux, on peut avoir les feedbacks.
The Central African Republic has a lot to offer to eco-tourists and the lovers of the great outdoors. To preserve this nature for prosperity, the country nominated 9 vast sites to UNESCO's inventory of World Heritage Sites. He is the oldest gorilla, Makumba by his name. Scientists from around the world come here to see him. Here you will find 5 natural parks and 33 protected areas. A nation connected to its roots, a culture rooted in sustainability. Investing in building a real crypto city means also rebuilding the whole Central African Republic, building schools and infrastructure, building hope and purpose, building faith. You contribute to a history revolution in which both of us, you as an investor and we as a country, fulfill our greatest dreams. Building the crypto city with us, you build light in the eyes of pure people, and you gate the chance once and forever to change the history and the news of Central Africa.
La crypto-monnaie est révolutionnaire. elle va démocratiser la démocratie. En fait, elle va donner le pouvoir au peuple pour participer vraiment au développement financier. Eux-mêmes vont... c'est un dispositif qui... on ne peut pas échapper aujourd'hui si on regarde l'avenir. Je dois, avec fierté aujourd'hui, vous annoncer que le Bitcoin, la loi, a été votée par le Parlement. C'est désormais une monnaie de référence. Et je pense que c'est un pari que nous avons gagné avec l'ensemble du peuple centrafricain à travers ses représentants. Mon rêve, c'est de voir un jour la République centrafricaine être parmi les pays qui attirent les autres citoyens du monde, où il fait bon vivre pour tous ceux qui s'y trouvent, et que le centrafricain puisse bien vivre sur son sol et vraiment y rêver.
Be a part of a moment in history, the dream of a president, the rebuilding of Central African Republic.